This is Tavamendelrin. He is the great-great-grandson of the once famous Anomen. So he's been spending his life trying to get back the Flail of Ages, which somehow his great-great-grandfather lost. So he's been traveling the Sword Coast and got picked up along the way. So he's starting off as a fighter. The point of this character actually is to recreate Anomen from Baldur's Gate 2. However, the level system is completely different between Baldur's Gate 2 and Baldur's Gate 3, using very, very old D&D rules. There was a whole dual classing system, which we don't have now. So it's not going to be an exact replica. Things are different, but it's going to be inspired by Anomen, let's say. So we're going with the theme of a Fighter Cleric here. Starting off with Fighter. This is so we actually get Constitution saving throw proficiency. I don't really care so much about the proficiency in the weapons and armor because we're going to get that from the Cleric anyway. For the fighting style, in Baldur's Gate 2, Anomen came with a shield. I'd like to think he passed down some sort of the protection fighting style down to his family, through his family. As for the ability points, again, it's a bit different between Baldur's Gate 3 and 2, so I can't make a complete recreation of it, but I've given him a high strength and constitution in particular. His wisdom, I would like to be higher, but, you know, we've only got a limited number of points to go with. So his first level is going to be in Fighter, and we're going to make his second level in Cleric. For his cantrips, he's going to go for Thaumaturgy to help him with intimidation and performance checks, guidance and Blade Ward. Potentially Blade Ward could help in combat. I doubt he'll actually use it that much. For the subclass, definitely War. He's going to be going out, fighting zealously. It also makes sense, so it works well with a Fighter subclass. Deity, still going to be Helm. For his spells, we can change those later. So the nice thing about the War Domain Cleric is that we can make an additional attack as a bonus action, a limited number of times per long rest. Then we're going to continue taking levels in Fighter, so we got Action Surge just then. As for the subclass, we didn't have subclasses in like this in Baldur's Gate 2. You could pick like a specialization, a particular kind of subclass, character creation, but it's not really the same as this. I decided to go with Battle Master. My other thought was maybe Champion, but I just kind of prefer Battle Masters, to be honest. But we're going to try and make him kind of a character who's good working with the party. He's not going to be too selfish. So we're going to go with Distracting Strike to help his allies have advantage on enemies. They might think goading would work well, but since he's got the defensive fighting style, it's a bit of overlap, so we're going to skip that one. We'll also go with Commander's Strike to help someone else make an attack, and Maneuvering Attack to help someone else move around the battlefield. For the first feat, going to be nice and simple. We're going to round off strength and wisdom up to even numbers. At level 5 we get extra attack. We're kind of heading almost straight to level 5, but it's nice to have a leveling Cleric to begin with. And he's going to finish off his fighting training by level 6 in Fighter, so we get an extra feat. And going with the shield fighting style sort of theme, he's going to take Shield Master. This kind of helps make up for his bad dexterity of 10. So you got +2 bonus to dexterity saving throws. That's all saving throws, which is nice. And then if there is some area of effect spell that forces a dexterity saving throw, he can take either half damage or no damage from it if he passes the saving throw. Then all the rest of the levels are going to go into Cleric. Perhaps these two levels could have been switched around. Level 2 Cleric is quite useful because we do get Guided Strike, so you gain a +10 bonus to your attack roll if you want it. But that does use up your Channel Divinity, so it's once per short rest. He gets Magic Weapon and Spiritual Weapon as his two domain spells, which are quite nice, quite useful for him. He gets another cantrip. He's going to go for light because he's human. He doesn't have dark vision. And the last feat we're going to get, is going to go for Warcaster. Mostly for this, you have advantage on saving throws to maintain concentration. He knows he's going to be up in the front lines. He's going to be taking damage, and some of his more useful Cleric spells are concentration spells. So hopefully with this advantage, and then also proficiency and a decent constitution score, he'll be able to maintain concentration fairly well. Then at level 5 we get Crusader's Mantle and Spirit Guardians, two awesome spells, both require concentration. I say we do get them in the Cleric spell list, but these are always prepared because they are his domain spells. And lastly, at the level 6 for Cleric, he can actually give someone else +10 to their attack roll instead, which is pretty nice. Kind of nice rounded sort of fighter there. And next up we'll look at his items. Some of these he did get late in the game, some a bit earlier. So start with his weapons. Flail of Ages, here it is. This is what he's been looking for. Finally found his ancestor's weapon, and the Deadshot. So since we are using a shield, we do need to use a one-handed weapon, or a versatile weapon, but wielded one-handed. This weapon was also in Baldur's Gate 2. It's not exactly the same. Back in Baldur's Gate 2, it was a +3 weapon, and then in Throne of Baal, kind of the expansion, you could make it up to +5. But here it's just kind of just a +1. But what we can do, once per long rest, we can actually imbue the weapon with one type of element. So either fire, ice, or acid, whichever one you feel is best. Perhaps this time he's going to go for ice. You can change this each long rest. So with this enchantment, The weapon is now a +2 weapon and deals an extra 1d4 damage. In this case, it's cold damage. For the dead shot, there's not much else to give him. For a ranged weapon, he's barely ever going to use it. So it's nice just to have this small buff. So critical hit now on a 19 instead of a 20. And if he does decide to shoot with it, at least he gets double proficiency bonus to the attack roll, which makes up for his lack of dexterity. And it's a +2 weapon, which is nice. And both of these can just be bought from Baldur's Gate, from Fitz the Firecracker, just outside Sorcerer's Sundries. Next up is his shield. Now, we don't have the shield, the Anomen family shield inside Baldur's Gate 3, but I've given him the Sentinel shield. I think this is kind of quite fitting, and again, makes up for his lack of dexterity. A +3 bonus to initiative. Since his dexterity is 10, at least he has some bonus now to his initiative rolls. And a +3 bonus to perception checks, which is quite nice. And we've got the shield bash reaction, which quite a few shields have later in the game, so potentially knock an enemy prone. This comes from Lantarv, one of the vendors in Moonrise Towers. Speaking of items from Moonrise Towers, we may as well go to the Ring of Free Action. And as far as I'm aware, this was also in Baldur's Gate, or Baldur's Gate 2, maybe both of them. You ignore the effects of difficult terrain, cannot be paralyzed or restrained, which is nice. So he's never going to be stopped in his tracks. He will always be able to get to where he wants to go. And since we're at the rings, the Whispering Promise can be bought in Act 1 from either Volo or Grat the Trader, or even Roa Moonglow and Moonrise Towers once again. This does actually kind of stack work with Second Wind, but also in case he gives out any healing, he can help others. We've got a couple more items from Act 1. Boots of Striding come from Minthara. Actually, he got these in Act 2 because Minthara is actually in camp. But if you do decide to kill Minthara, then you can get these off her body. If he casts a spell, he gets momentum for 1 turn, so he can move an extra 10 feet, which is very nice. And also can't be knocked prone while wearing these, and can't be moved against his will, which means when you combine this with the Ring of Free Action, there's pretty much no way he can be stopped. I mean, in terms of his movement speed. Gloves of the Growling Underdog, he's going to throw himself into any situation. He is brave, he's not afraid, and this gives him advantage on melee attacks when surrounded by 2 or more foes. This comes from the Goblin Camp, from just behind Draw Ragzin, a very, very strong pair of gloves. Sticking with an Act 2 item next, the Flawed Helldusk Helmet. This comes from Damon if you manage to save him. So a +2 bonus to saving throws against spells, and +1 Constitution saving throws. This helps with concentration. This helps with his dexterity saving throws in particular, because it would have been pretty bad if it hadn't been for this item. And 3 items left. These very rare items all come from Act 3. So the Mantle of the Holy Warrior comes from the Stormshore Tabernacle, which is where you find Vicar Humbletoes, right next to the Basilisk Gate, actually, very, very close to where you first get into Baldur's Gate. That can just be bought from the store. This Amulet of the Devout, Helm told him to go and get this. And this comes from the offering chests from beneath the Stormshore Tabernacle. So +2 bonus to his spell save DC is very strong for him because his spell save DC isn't going to be particularly high. But this at least now makes his spell save DC not amazing, 16, but it's not the worst. It'd be nice if it was higher. And lastly, the Emblazoned Plate of the Marshal. This comes from, I don't know about spoilers here, but from a certain Duke. So if a certain Duke doesn't survive, you can take this off his body. All incoming damage reduced by 2 as heavy armor. Just kind of nice resistance to fire damage and a +2 bonus to saving throws. This is to kind of link up with the Flawed Helldusk Helmet. And kind of an add-on to this, we've got Fire Shield if you want to cast it, which doesn't require concentration. It's quite nice. I would suggest that the Helldusk Helm itself, I have actually got it here, but Helldusk Helm, once you do get it from the House of Hope, I would equip this instead. This time gives him Dark Vision, and actually you can see a magical darkness even, to really make up for that lack of Dark Vision. So he's going to be walking around, maybe without the Helldusk Helm. These 3 very rare items, maybe not this one, not the armor, but the cloak and the necklace can come from quite early in Act 3, once you get into Baldur's Gate itself. And the Deadshot and Flail of Ages, basically you can get 4 of these without having to do too much, just going to some vendors and doing a little bit of thievery for the Amulet of the Devout. As for Tadpole powers, I did give him Cull the Weak, but do you know what, in the end I kind of decided, I wish I hadn't really, but I think he's going to get luck with the Fire Realms. He thinks he's being guided by Helm, not by the Fire Realms. So once every long rest he can get a critical hit. And to get there we need favourable beginnings, which just makes him add proficiency bonus to an attack roll or ability check. But aside from that, ignore these 2 down here. So I feel it's fairly traditional now for me to test out anything on this set of Flaming Fist here. In this particular playthrough, I haven't gotten rid of the Steel Watchers yet, so this one's going to be included in the fight. Generally, Tafferman here is going to want to stand nearby at least one of his allies. I've got a Paladin here, so they're going to work quite well together. On his turn, he's got several different things he can do. I'd say considering he's standing in close proximity to lots of enemies, Spirit Guardians is a good first choice here for the first round. Another half decent choice is Crusader's Mantle. Unfortunately, this takes an action, so we can't actually do many attacks this turn. But if he's just thinking about himself, he's got Divine Favor. Also takes Concentration, which adds 1d4 damage to his attack rolls. Because we're in what looks like to be a slightly dire situation, I'm going to go for Spirit Guardians, actually. So see how well he maintains concentration. We can see that the spell save DC is a little bit low, especially when some of these have got proficiency and a high wisdom modifier. Successful. Easily made. With advantage. Proficiency, his armor, a +1 from his helmet, +3 from the paladin, +3 from his constitution. It was almost impossible for him to fail that. Alright, do we want to use shield blow? Perhaps. Didn't work out. That's okay. Also, one nice thing is it uses up the reactions of other people. As a fighter, he does have action surge. So, for example, perhaps I want Lae'zel to move. It looks like the Watcher's going to be after her. Well, I'm not sure she's going to be close enough. Anyway, he's going to try his Battle Master attack. Not bad. Yeah, she's too far away. Okay, my mistake. No one else really needs it, but let's give it to the shorty. We can have another attack because we're a level 5 fighter or higher. Let's just go with Dazed. Nice. And now, because he's got this War Priest extra attack, he can actually take a third attack, which can also use one of his maneuver dice. So let's say Distracting, perhaps on Gauntlet Edwina here. So that on her next turn, the Paladin can come and have advantage against this one. Oh, no need for that. Lae'zel's come along and cast Chain Lightning. I think it's fitting that a Guardian of Faith comes down next to Tavamen. Now that we've taken out the fist at the top, we'll head back down. So the Paladin this turn can move 60 feet, even though she's a halfling. So everyone's looking a little bit hurt. Shadowheart here is maimed. So we can stick out Mass Healing Word, blessing everyone at the same time. So he is worried about Shadowheart, so he's going to come and try and stand in the way. Also while giving out Spirit Guardians. And he's just going to continue laying into this thing. Helm has guided his hand. Whack. Bonk. And here he can give the War God's blessing to the Earth Elemental. Quite easily done. I could have placed him in slightly better positions, but I do like to think he's quite a good team player. So I've taken a long rest, I've come to my other favourite spot. So once again, he's going to cast Elemental Age. This time, I don't know, let's go for Acid. Also going to give out AIDS. This time, he's going to use Crusader's Mantle, but from his cloak. This will help out the Paladin and anyone else doing weapon attacks. That aids his concentration, so no more concentration spells for now. Then we're just gonna get in there. Perhaps actually I should cast Fire Shield as well, since we've got it. And since we're preparing for a fight, spiritual weapon. I think a Warhammer. That's kind of clerical. Oh no, should have placed that maybe somewhere a bit different. Oh well, I'm going to place people next to him. And the Paladin is going to start us off. Ooh, critical hit. So we can see his initiative isn't the best, but it shouldn't normally be at the very end of the turn order. So we're going to try and stick close to him if we can. And here we go with our teamwork starting from the beginning. War God's Blessing. Get rid of this Manip. She loves to summon a wolf, which actually causes problems. And this is a fighter paladin. Might be for another video. Maybe not. We'll see. Constitution saving throw successful. Even though the DC was 13, got a 32. I'm not sure why the protection fighting style wasn't working there. Oh, he doesn't have a reaction, that's why. Because he used the unguided strike, which makes sense. So he's got Underdog's Bravery. Now there's no particular need for his bonus action. So I think it might be worth using the War Priest charge. Nah. Now I do want to stay close to the Paladin, so I don't particularly want to use up my action surge. So I'm just going to stay there. I'm not going to use the War God's Blessing on the spiritual weapon, as thematic as it might be. So he's taking a bit of damage, so we're going to use Second Winds. Gives himself Bless, which is very nice. This time I'm going to try and take on Blaze, Leo, Portier. The Guided Strike. Make sure we get that hit. Use our Action Surge. Get this critical hit. And we'll try... There's a chance we'll get rid of her. There we are. Let's give action movement speed to laser. Oh, no. Pointless. Never mind. Immune to maimed. Very helpful there. Aha, and here comes the Shield Master. No damage taken. Now, he's not above taking up a strong potion of healing. Or potion of supreme healing. In these longer fights, he's run out of kind of good resources. He's just going to attack 3 times. There we are. That used up a War Priest charge. But doing decently enough. Let's get out of the way, shall we? Okay, now it's time to try and get this invisible foe. This happens sometimes with this NPC. Tenacity, this comes from the weapon skill of the player. Let's try and make use of Crusader's Mantle. Get the extra 1d4 damage there. Ooh, nice. There we are, not bad. There we are. Well, I don't think this Tavamen is quite as pompous as Anomen was. But let me know how you would make an Anomen-inspired character. Like I said before, it's not supposed to be a 1-to-1 ratio. It's not supposed to be an exact carbon copy. It's just not possible, really. But I've tried to include some things that were present in Baldur's Gate 2, at least. In fact, he's got Fighter and Cleric levels. He's got the Flail of Ages, the Ring of Free Action. Did my best to create him in the character creator. Pretty difficult, though. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. If you made it this far, please do consider subscribing. Thank you to all the members of my channel, and hopefully I'll catch you in the next one.
Gods take you first.